things that this researcher has done in the past, maybe I'm interested in only one of maybe 10 things, and I'm going to go look really deep into that. So this is your opportunity on your CV to be specific and link to places where the faculty who's reading it can find more detail. Next, and actually probably most importantly, are your statements, right? So every time you apply to a grad program, they're going to ask for often a statement of research and a statement of purpose, and then most in the US, at least when I was applying, are also asking for a diversity statement. So when you're writing these things, first of all, you want to read the guidelines very closely. Every school asks for something slightly different. But as you're writing, you want to keep in mind that whoever's reading this will probably read, a couple of them all at the same time, and you want yours to stand out, right? So one tactic that you can use to make sure that you get the information across that is really necessary is to bold the important parts of your statement. So this example is from it is not from an application, it's from a fellowship application that I had, but everything's the same. You can see that I've bolded the important phrases, and then in this second paragraph here, the real thesis of this research statement I've put in bold. So the way you want to think about this is, if you were just to skim through your statement of purpose or your research statement, you want to just be able to look at the bolded parts and take away 90% of the content, with everything else between just being details. Any questions on this? And actually, one more thing I want to say is, when you're writing your CV, when you're writing your statements, get as many eyes on it as possible. You want experts in your field to look at it. If you have a advisor from your undergrad, get them to read it, get them to critique it. You have friends who are not experts, get them to read it. How does this read from the perspective of someone who's not an expert in your field? These are all extremely important things. Janet, you have a question. Yes. Janet, you raised your hand. You have a question? Does anyone else have questions?
Yes, I do, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry, I would just love to say, is there a way we can access these documents after the meeting,
Yeah.
sir?
Yeah. I can share these slides with Charles. And Charles, are you able to send them around?
Sure, I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank-
Or-
Thanks
I-
infinitely.
And I have one more slide I want to go over, but it's on a slightly different topic. So any more questions about CVs, statements, things like that before we go on? All right. So the last thing I want to talk about is, how do you choose what schools you're applying to? Right? There are so many schools and there's so many different programs. And choosing a school where not only you'll be able to be successful, but where you'll have a positive experience is as important as getting admitted to that school. So I know there's going to be more talk about funding later on, but some of the basics of doing a PhD in the US, almost all PhDs are funded. And the advice I got when I was an undergrad was, don't pay for your PhD, right? It's not worth it. Go somewhere where they will pay for you to do it. And usually that pay is funded in exchange for you to work as a teaching assistant or a research assistant. What this means, and especially for international students, is that your education and your visa status are strongly linked to your employment. And this leaves you very vulnerable. It means that your advisor has power not only over what you're studying, but also on your ability to continue to pay for your education. for your ability to continue to live and study in the US. And this is not some, I don't want to scare you away from, you know, applying to schools in the US, because there are so many positive experiences, but I think you should look very closely at the schools you're applying to make sure that other international scholars there have had positive experiences. So find a school where international scholars are protected. Many schools in the US, at many schools, the graduate workers, these are the teaching assistants and research assistants, they have unionized, which means that they all come together and work with their school to agree on a fair contract. And the fair contract can mean, you know, they negotiate on their stipend amount, on how disputes between, you know, graduate students and faculty are resolved, and also who pays for visa-related fees. This is especially important for all of you because, of course, visa fees are extremely expensive. My office mate, who I share an office with, he every year has to go back to China and pay to have his visa renewed, and the school covers none of that. But I know at other schools there are funds that that international scholars have negotiated with the university to help pay for example, flights home to renew your visa and all fees relating to things like that. The reason why stipend amounts are important are because as international scholars, you're only allowed to work in the school. You can't go and find extra work outside of the school that would violate the terms of your visa. So it's extremely important that when you choose to go to a graduate school in the US, that you look at how much the stipend is, and you ask a question: is this enough for me to live on? Because if it's not, there's almost no recourse. At my school, I know international students who have gone to selling their blood plasma in order to, you know, continue to pay their rent and things like that. So this is something to really look into. So when you apply to a school, and especially if you're admitted, find other international scholars that are in the same program and ask them about their experience. Ask them things like, do TAs and RAs, do they make enough to live? And when grad students have problems, do those problems get resolved in a timely manner? Does the university take the complaints of grad students seriously? These are all things you should really look into as you're applying, and especially after you're admitted. So that's all I have. Any more questions? Okay, if there's no more questions, thank you all for having me.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for your presentation, Dad. I have a question regarding the CV, I mean, with respect to the US. So do you have a specific limit or like say number of pages for a CV?
No,
Oh, no limitations. So I
no
can go
limitation.
even up to 10 pages if I want.
If you have 10 pages of stuff, that is great. Yes, definitely put that. But you might want to be strategic about what things go higher up. So for example, I have a friend who published a lot of papers. And you know, maybe half of them were first author, and the other half were she was maybe 10th author. So I've seen on her CV, she has a section that's selected publications where she only puts her first author ones. And then later, maybe on the 6th page of her CV, she has all the rest of the publications that aren't, you know, her first author ones.
Okay. All right, that works. So what about, because I mean, I found it interesting to hear that some students all go up to the extent of selling their blood plasma to fund their, studies. So, but do you know, like maybe what should someone have in mind on an average for a specific amount of money for a PhD student in terms of salary that can
Yeah.
cover maybe the whole tuition?
Yeah, so it's actually very common for tuition to be waived if you're working as a teaching assistant or research assistant. And that might not be true, for example, if you're on a fellowship, but if you're employed by the university, generally you don't pay any tuition and you're paid a stipend on top of that. In the US, the lowest amount I've seen is on the order of like 17 to 18,000 US dollars a year. That is generally not enough to live on. Rent in the United States is extremely expensive. $1,500 a month oftentimes. At my school and Charles's school, our stipend is a little bit more than $20,000 for a 10-month contract. In California, it can be as high as $40,000. But those schools are unionized and our school is not unionized, and that's part of the reason why our stipends are so low, and many international scholars here have a very difficult time paying for their cost of living.
Thank you.
Of course. I see two more raised hands.
Yeah, Ted Johnson, thank you for your presentation. Most persons who join this meeting, maybe, if I'm not totally correct, there are some who came for MSc program, not probably for PhD.
Yeah.
Does this covers also for MSc program?
That really depends on the school. I know at my university, many times the Master of Science, they are covered, and they get their tuition paid. They do get paid a lower stipend, but it is possible, yes, to have this work as a teaching assistant or research assistant, for a master's student. But it really depends on the school. And my advice to you would be, when you're admitted, to please reach out to the faculty advisor that you're admitted through, or reach out to the graduate coordinator for the program and ask, is it reasonable for me to believe that I will have this, tuition waiver, this work for me to do once I get there? You don't want to show up and be surprised, right? But it's not uncommon. Yeah.
Secondly, is it possible you could recommend some universities you think that are viable for someone to look up to? Since you're there, you should know most of the universities that are okay for people to apply for.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are so many universities, right? So I live on the west coast of the United States. I live in Las Vegas, but I'm from California. The University of California schools and the California state schools are all generally, very good for international students. The international students there have a very strong voice on their campus. They have a say over what decisions are being made with respect to how much they're being paid, and how are disputes resolved and things like that. I know there are many schools on the East coast of the United States as well that have strong support for their international scholars. I know our second speaker today is at Penn State, and Penn State just a couple of weeks ago voted to win their union. So things will be changing there, I imagine, very soon, as far as how much power the international scholars have to make choices on their campus. But I mean, I'm from California. I love the California schools. They are great. And all of my TAs when I was there as an undergrad seemed like they felt protected by their school. Yeah, I just think we have a few more questions.
Okay, good evening. Oh, good day, Mr. Ted. Thank you so much for the presentation. Can you confirm you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. So I just want to ask two questions. One is concerning the CV, and then also about course of study. So I actually studied mathematics education here in Nigeria, but then I'm someone that is very passionate about doing things in education, but now not just in the classroom, but how to use like things like data science to software in education. So I'm thinking of crossing to a course of study like learning science, which is going to focus more on the science behind learning itself. So I want to ask, like, do you think I have the requisite background as someone that studied math education with actually very strong CGPA? So that's one. The second also is that so while doing this, so I've been like training teachers, getting invited to speak. I've also been on TV, like to present things on around education. So I want to ask, is this something you can also add to your CV, or is just limited to what you do in your academics?
Yeah, I
Thank
think
you.
you should definitely add experience like that onto your CV. As a grad student, it is prefer and that those are skills that you have that you're not going to have to be taught, right? And what that means is that your advisor can take you in and you can work more independently, and you already have all of this background. And so it kind of goes along with what I said earlier, where the faculty are limited in time, right? And what that means is they can take on more students if those students can work more independently. So putting things on your CV that show that you have these background skills, you've done all these things that you now no longer have to be taught, that makes you a much stronger candidate.
Okay, thank you so
Right.
much.
Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you so much. We'll still have like after the whole talk, we'll still have like people want to ask questions can still hang around and yeah, and ask more questions. So let's appreciate Ted and give him some breathing space for now. All right. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Ted. Amina. Hello, Amina.
Hi,
Oh, are
give me
you
a second,
ready?
please.
Oh, okay.
So I think you're gonna have to teach me how to share my screen here because it's something I've not used before.
Yeah, Google. I understand. Google Meet is not as popular as Zoom. I think on that you see the options where you see options to raise your hand, options for other things. You're going to see
Okay.
an arrow pointing to the top. I think, yeah, and then you see an arrow pointing to the top, and once you click on it, it will allow you to present.
Just give me a second.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, can you see that? Where you see like the camera?
Yeah, I'm trying to share my screen now. I think I
Okay,
got it.
okay, all right, cool.
Let me know if you're seeing the right screen.
Yes, I'm seeing your screen.
Okay, one second. Let me put it in presentation mode.
Cool.
Okay, can we all see that now?
Yes.
Okay. I think there are a lot of overlaps with this, and Ted has done a fantastic job in trying to, explain everything in such a short time. So there are some things that he has, explained and mentioned that I'll just briefly mention because what I'm going to be presenting today is going to be a crash course. You cannot technically explain to someone in depth on grad school process within 10 to 12 minutes. So I'm just going to give you guys a crash course. And so my name is Amina, as Charles have introduced me, and I'll be talking specifically on funding application processes, key strategies, statement of purpose, just a little bit of everything as Ted has mentioned, and I think with some distinctions, I think. If you can't hear me, please let me know before I just continue to go forward. So,
We can hear you loud and clear.
okay,
Loud and clear.
so I would like to know my attendees. That's the first thing I always like to do before I begin presentation. So what I want you all to do is when you see a question pop up, I want you to type that in the chat box so I know who I'm speaking with and I'm able to like tailor my presentation to the specific audiences. So are we ready? Good?
Yeah.
Okay. So who is applying for fall 2026? Please put it in the chat box if you're applying for fall 2026, which is next year, August. Okay, I see some. I am here. Okay. Okay, that's good. I'm just gonna give like 5 more seconds to that just to see the number of people that are applying. Please, if you're not speaking, kindly mute yourself so there is no. Okay. Okay, I think that a lot of the messages are still coming in, but from this, I can see that a lot of us are applying for fall 2026. And the reason I ask this is because I know some of us, you know, when you see things like this, you might still be in your final year and just want to understand or learn about US application processes, which is also good, which is why I like to ask. So my second question to know my audience would be master's or PhD? If you're applying for master's, put it in the chat box. If it's PhD, write PhD. I don't know who is not muted. Is that Ekonjowa? Can you kindly mute yourself? Or maybe Charles should do that. Mute everybody automatically. I think there's a possibility you can do that. Okay, I think that's better. Okay, I can see some masters, some PhD, and I like a very smart person, Crown. It says the two. Okay, that's good. And my last question would be,
Can someone hear me?
yeah, I can
Yes.
hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, all right, go on.
Yeah, this is my last question. What fields are you applying to? Is it geology? Is it accounting, public policy, you know, hydrogeology, aquatic toxicology? Just to try to understand, you know, the diversity of my audience before I begin.
Business.
Yes, cybersecurity. Okay. This is a mixture of everything. We have science, pure science, applied social science, and we have some that are not even science, which is good. Okay. Oh, accounting. Okay. Okay, that's good. So this is just me trying to understand my audience and trying to, you know, tailor whatever I want to say today to ensure that everyone takes home something that is particularly specific to them. And you're not, it's not like, even though I'm a science person, I'm a scientist, a water scientist, you don't feel like, this wasn't helpful for me. You know, the person was just talking all sciences stuff. So I always like to do this. And so to start with, like I mentioned, most of what I'm going to be talking about is going to overlap with what Ted has mentioned earlier, but that's okay. You know, like I said, one person cannot give you a crash course, even though that's kind of what we are doing. It's still not enough to give you a crash course on graduate school application. And I think one of the other things that I didn't ask is, particularly most of you that said you're applying to fall 2026, I would assume, this is an assumption, that before now you have an idea on some of these things. You've reached out to people, you have a mentor, either in the US, in Europe, you know, in Canada. You just have someone that has gone through what you're trying to go through. If you don't, I see no, I don't. If you don't panic. Even if it's looking like, okay, for 2026, applications are open already, blah, blah, blah. That's still okay, you know. But I think it's important. It's very, very important to have someone that can lead you. And there are a lot of platforms that can do that for you. platforms such as, you have LinkedIn. You can connect with people on LinkedIn. I talk to people a lot about this. You just try to connect with someone in your field. You can just type hydrogeology students, and then you get, people that are doing that thing either in master's, PhD. It won't be an undergrad because you're applying to grad school, right? And so you just connect with them and try to form this professional mentor-mentee relationship that can guide you. And you don't have to wait till you're applying to grad school before you have a mentor and try to rush everything. I mentor my students as early as June, get a new cohort. Application is still in December. So it's easy for them and it's easy for me. And by the time application process comes, which is now or since last month or now, they already have a lot of things already, and they are just trying to refine what they've done before and just modify it to become better. So start reaching out to people. That's basically what I was going to say with that. If you don't have anyone, everyone needs a mentor. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is what US graduate schools actually look out for. Your most important, the first thing is your academic readiness, right? You have to show that grad school is not easy. I like to be truthful with people. I don't cover up things. So you don't enter grad school and you're seeing whatever you're seeing and you're like, oh, they didn't tell me this aspect. It was just, apply, it's all rosy, it's all good. But I like to prepare people mentally for what they are getting themselves involved in. And you need to show whoever you're applying into, either the school or the faculty member, which we are still going to talk about in terms of cold emailing, that you're prepared academically. Everything about you shows that you're prepared. Your transcript, which is where your academics will come in, your CV, which is where your progress will come in as well, and also whatever mental status that you have, that you're prepared to do this rigorous graduate school application or even graduate school in general. And as an undergrad that is either applying for master's or a PhD, your transcript is the most important, and your CV in terms of documents to send to them first. So your transcript, there's nothing you can do about it, right? Is what you've had already, especially if you've graduated. The second thing is your research alignment. So if you're applying to any graduate school, you need to show that, especially if you're applying to sending a particular professor a cold email, you need to really show the professor that whatever I'm doing perfectly aligns with what you're doing or overlaps with what you're doing, which means that you must have gone through the professor's webpage, study what they do, and then try to understand if it aligns or not. I've seen students that are into, let's say, geology, and because you're just trying to get out from whatever you're in, you're applying to somebody that is into, let's say, medical or biomedical sciences. There is no alignment. Yes, in geology, we now have geohealth, but it is different. You have to have this alignment, which is to say that ensure that you check whoever you're applying to in terms of grad school or in terms graduate school or in terms of the professor specifically, that whatever you're doing aligns. There are some schools that don't even have what you're doing. While I was applying for masters, I did my masters in the US as well at Illinois State University. When I was checking some schools didn't have hydrogeology. That's just it. So some schools might not even have what you're doing. So you want to check the school and you want to check the department if they even have, whatever you're doing. And when I say hydrogeology, that's just an example. Some schools have an umbrella and then a professor has exactly what you're doing. You study geology in school doesn't mean that you have to get your master's or PhD in geology. There are a lot of interdisciplinary, researches in the US compared to like in Africa. Same thing that I'm doing, someone in agricultural engineering department in my school is doing, which means that I can apply to that department if I wanted to. Someone in biological sciences is doing the same, civil and environmental engineering. So don't think because, okay, I did geology, oh, they don't have geology or they don't have geological sciences, it means that they don't have what I'm doing. No, you have to, make more research and, dive deep into it. And the last thing is your fit with the department and the potential supervisor. And I think I already mentioned this earlier. Make sure you perfectly align whatever story you're telling make sure that it aligns with the person's goal. I've seen a lot of professors or faculty member crash out on LinkedIn because, students reach out to them and there is no alignment. And they don't even try to make, research about, what the person is doing, and they just copy paste and send the person an email. And you get a lot of students say, oh, I reached out to this person didn't respond to me, blah, blah, blah. So ensure that you have a research fee, because before we begin to talk about funding, we first need to talk about the big picture, what this graduate school or what this potential supervisor is looking out for. That's the very first thing before you can then begin to talk about funding. So I classify this big picture into like 3, your research alignment, your fit with the professor, as well as your academic readiness, which should show in like your courseworks, your transcripts, and your CV. And I have a hint from this, which to sum this slide up is your entire application should answer one question: why you, why this program, and why now? And this is just what I've just explained now. There are a lot of people like you that are also applying to the same thing. To be fair, there are some people probably smarter than you. There are some people you're probably smarter than, but why you? Why are you unique? That's just it. I always tell people that you always find yourself at the middle, which means that there are some people out there that might be smarter than you. There are some people that you might be smarter than. So if you look at that, that is creating like a step which places everyone at the middle. So make sure that they see the uniqueness in you, why you, why this program. A lot of people want to know because there are other programs out there. And why now? People would, want to know why now. Because not everyone finishes undergrad and just apply to grad school. I want to believe that I'm talking to like, Africans or Nigerians majorly. And then, after your undergrad, you go for your NYSC. And then sometimes you might even get to work a year before you think about grad school or something like that. So why that time specifically? So talking about funding pathways, I think Ted hinted this briefly in his presentation. There are several sources of funding in the US. And I always tell people that when you're applying for grad school, specifically, I don't want to speak for every field, but I will speak for STEM fields. Don't waste your money. Don't apply to a school that is not ready to fund you. Like, even some people, and it's not to you alone. I've met with Americans. I mentor Americans as well. And then some of them don't even know that you can go to grad school for free. They don't even know that. So it's not just you that, oh, you didn't know this before. No. And it's not just with PhD. It's also with masters. Like I said, I did my master's in the US at Illinois State University, and I was fully funded while teaching. So to answer someone's question earlier, I think the person asked the question when Ted was presenting, which he also talked about that some school has like, TA for masters as well, irrespective of, and I have students that apply for masters and they all got funding, the US and Canada and the likes, or particularly in the US. So there is always funding. If you look at the right places, there is always funding. So one common source of fund is teaching assistantship, where you get to assist a professor in a particular course. Like it could just be grading. For some schools, you're just grading, right? The professor will send you, the grading scheme, and then you just grade. Some schools, like during my master's, I taught a lab, and then I also graded, and I proctored exams. You understand? And so they don't just throw you into it, even though they believe that you should know some of all these things. Some of the gradings that I did, or some of the teachings that I did, they were what I was taught in 100 level my first year. So you understand. So it's not like they're just going to throw you into it. They would give you the materials for you to look, to look at and prepare yourself before, and they'll talk you through it. So there's teaching assistantship, which is, a method. Some schools only have teaching assistantships. There is no research. And then you have the R1 schools who have like research assistantship. For instance, Penn State, which is my current school, is an R1 school, and it has research assistantships. My previous school is a teaching university, so it only has like teaching, particularly my department only has like teaching assistantships. So you can get funding through like teaching, research, and there are also fellowships whereby you apply for university fellowships or external fellowships. either external fellowship with the United States itself. I know someone not from the United States and got a fellowship from Department of Defense. So that's an external fellowship. And then you also have scholarships. You know, MasterCard funds some certain schools whereby you can get scholarships through that. The advantage with the scholarships and fellowships is that you don't have to like be a teaching assistant or something like that, but everything is still a method of funding to get, you know, your tuition covered, your stipend covered or paid for, and then you also get health insurance, which is very important in the US. So like I said, the key takeaway from this slide is you don't pay for grad school in the US. Funding is the norm. That's always my own goal. Any school that tells you to pay, particularly for STEM fields, don't bother applying to that school or don't bother accepting the application. That's what I always say. Unless you're super rich and you don't mind, then that's fine. But that's always what I always say to that. And then I'll just briefly highlight this because Ted has talked about some of these. You have your statement of purpose, you have your letters of recommendations, your CV, your transcript, and some schools request for research writing or portfolio, some schools. But the most common four are your statement of purpose, your letters of recommendation, your CV, and your transcript. Like I mentioned earlier, your transcript is your transcript. There's nothing you can do about it, right? It's what you graduated with. Your CV has to be tailored specifically to whoever you're applying to. For instance, I have a major CV. It has everything. I'm involved in a lot of things, you know, mentorship, blah, 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 geology stuff, everything like 8 pages or so. But then the CV I send out are like 4 to 5 pages. And those, depending on what I'm sending out, for instance, if I'm applying for a leadership position in the US, specifically, let's say a position in Geological Society of America, while there's geology there, I also put majorly my mentorship experience and leadership experience. You understand what I mean? So if you're applying to like grad school, if I'm applying to like, let's say an internship, I would not put any mentorship experience in my internship. So while I have a draft, a major CV, then I bring out from that CV to like put into specifically what I'm applying to do. And then your letters of recommendations. This is very, very important. I think I have an int here that your SOP and letters of recommendations are 70% of your success for graduate school. Your SOP, which is your statement of purpose, it has to be written in such a way that, because I think for some schools, they have evaluations. Some schools, your SOP is like 40%, some schools like 30%. If you're into statistics, you know that that is really, really huge. And your letters of recommendation also comes in handy as well as your CV. Like I said, transcript is your transcript. So these are the 3 things that you can really, really modify and ensure that whoever is writing your letters of recommendation actually knows you. I told my university professor, undergrad, this thing, which he learns later. He didn't believe it. I said, most of you Nigerian professors don't know how to write letters of recommendation. It's always generic. I told him to his face that day. He was like, Amina, what do you mean by that? And he's a very close friend of mine, but he was my undergraduate supervisor. And then I explained what I meant. I sent him a draft of how it should be later, and then from there, he knew. And some professors will just tell you, okay, just do this, and then I'll just write who you had there, blah, 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 just how it should be. So ensure that your letters of recommendation is coming from someone that actually knows you, knows you academically and professionally, and is able to put that down into writing. It's not generic like, oh, this person is very matured, this person is highly motivated. Yes, we know you're highly motivated, but how? That has to follow. Oh, this person took my course in this person was able to like understand the complex geological this and this. They're able to put it in writing. If it's field work, if it's, internship, they're able to put that internship experience, particularly what you did, not just generic, because that is very, very important. And that's how they evaluate, vague recommendations or actual recommendations for people that actually know you. So Ted has shown you statement of purpose. Do you know how that goes? I think in my next slide or so, I have like my 4 key steps on how to write statement of purpose, not the actual statement of purpose. So these are what your application document is going to like entail. Make sure that your statement of purpose, like he said as well, is verified by more than one person. You're writing this yourself. Your eyes tells you that, oh, this is perfect. So ensure you send it out to people you know, people you don't know. It is fine. I've had people reach out and say, please, can you just check this? I'm like, okay, that is fine. So yeah. How to contact professors, what to say. You start with who you are. When I mean who you are, academically and professionally, not that my name is this, I grew up in this. They don't care. Who you are academically and professionally, your research interest. That's because these professors are so busy. Sometimes we feel like, they are not responding to us. They are very, very busy. Even as a student, I know how busy I am. So not to talk of professors. So you want to make sure that you catch their attention. So who you are, your research interest, why them specifically, and always ensure to attach your CV and your transcripts to it. What not to do? I love memes a lot. You should know by this. When you're contacting a professor, what not to do? Don't beg for funding. It's a cold email. Don't start with, can you fund me? No, you want to establish that relationship, that professional relationship that, okay, do we even align in terms of research interest? Are you even taking a student? That should be the question. Are you taking a student? Do our research interests align? Blah, blah, blah. Don't start your cold email by begging for funding. Also, don't send extremely long essays. Your essay should not be more than, I always say, 3 to 4 paragraphs, and they should be meaningful. Don't oversend, long essays that has some information that is not needed. And also, don't email blast. Don't blast them with emails. Once you send a cold email, you can wait for a week or two and send a follow-up email. When you send a follow-up email, if they don't respond, that's fine. Just leave it. They might be busy or something else might happen. Give it a gap. Don't keep sending follow-up. Sometimes professors get frustrated with that. I've sent maximum of 2 follow-up emails before when I was applying for masters. So don't blast them with emails. That can easily irritate professors. And don't ask them immediately, oh, I need you to. You ask, are they taking in student? That's how you indirectly ask them that you want them to supervise if they are taking students. So I just have this here before I round up. Cold email samples. We have the objective. I don't know if my cursor, yeah. You have the subject. This is just a draft. You have of some of my past student. Expression of interest, prospective master's student. And then dear prof this, I hope this email finds you well, blah, blah, blah. This is where I talked about introducing yourself academically and professionally. Your name is this, you're a final year student at this, if you're still a final year student, or you're a recent graduate of maybe geology or accounting. And then you talk about your CGPA. If you have a very strong CGPA, and I'm saying this because I don't know my audience, sometimes life happens. You see students that have a lot of, a lot of other professional, applications or documents, but something happened with their CGPA, right? If your CGPA is for instance, 3.9 over 5 points on the 5-point scale, I would advise you not to put it there. Because some people see that and that just moves let them know you before you begin to throw that in their face. You can talk about a lot of other things, but if you have a strong CGPA 4 over 5 or 3 over 4, then you can put it there to show strong CGPA. But if life happens and you have 3.9, 3.8 over 5 point, don't throw that initially on their face. Let them know that you've acquired a lot outside that. So you have this, you're writing to express your interest. You follow their work, you mention what they do so they know that you've actually followed their work. And then you just talk about what you do as well. Who are you? Why should I even reply to your email? Okay, I currently lead a research project, which integrates, so you're already saying which integrates GIS, public health data, and community engagement. So the person knows your skills now. You have communication skill. You can undo public health data, GIS, environmental data, and the person will look at what they're interested in. Oh, this person aligns with, some of the skills and some of what the person does. And then in addition, you mentioned some other thing that you've been involved in. And when you're talking about skills, don't just list skills. List it as a form of, what you've done in terms of project. Don't just say, I have these skills and this. No. How does that skill, how does it align with what you've done? Merge it together. And finally, I have, your technical competencies, which you've used extensively for this, and looking ahead for grad school, what are you interested in, for the person to know your interest. And then you just attach your CV, attach your transcript, and let them know you look forward to hearing from them or having a Zoom meeting with them and all of that. So this is like one of the examples of the numerous cold emails that I decided to share here from students. So this is how to properly send a cold email to a potential supervisor that you're interested in. To give you a crash course on this, the first signature part of SOP, motivation, 2 to 3 sentences, either a lived experience that made you interested in whatever you're doing, or a hook or big question. There's always a big question out there. And I always tell people, look within your surrounding before you look out. That gives you an idea of what you want to do. And then, you transition to your academic and research preparation, your undergraduate, what did you do? List some of the courses, some of the important courses that, transitions or helps you understand what you want to do for grad school. The research projects that you've done, you have final year research project, you have internships, you have, maybe field, lab, and technical skills that have gone into this project. And then you begin to talk about your fit for the program. But before your fit, they want to see you as a whole, complete. So you need to mention, what do you do beyond academics and research? Oh, you volunteer for this, you volunteer for that. I always particularly like to put that there. And when you're talking about volunteering experience, make sure it aligns with your future goal. For instance, I'm applying for hydrogeology or water science studies, and I volunteered for a number of things because I like to do things. I'm just saying this. And then I put one of the volunteering data. Oh, I was, what can I use that don't even align? Maybe I think, and I'm going to say this, but maybe I should. And then a student, putting something like, oh, I'm the brand owner of a pad something. That doesn't align with water. So make sure whatever volunteering, I'm interested in environment and water. I put in, oh, I volunteer for Plugging Nigeria. Plugging is an environmental safety initiative in Nigeria. That aligns. They see your, alignment with your future goal. And then you put your fit for the program. You mention specific professors that you've contacted or that you're interested in. And then you talk about your future goals, which includes your short-term and your long-term goals. Grad schools choose people who know where they are going. So you have to put it there that you know where you're going, you know where you're coming from in terms of academically and professionally, because your SOP is telling a story. So that story needs to build up. When you're telling a story about yourself, you cannot say that, I grew up in Lagos, then I was born in Ibadan. No, you start from, I was born in Ibadan, and then, at 10 years old, I went to Lagos, grew up there. That's how you tell a meaningful story. And from all this, in summary, what makes your application stand out? Clear alignment with what I just mentioned, strong letters of recommendation, demonstrated skills in your particular field. Teaching and tutoring is also very, very important in your application. I always say that, even if you don't have it, even if it's tutoring experience. I got my master's, I would say, I always tell people, because I included my teaching and tutoring experience in my SOP and my CV. I was competing with someone else that was a very close friend of mine that I knew. And then I was so scared. I'm like, this person has a lot of research experience, more than I do. And then I'm not going to get this. But the school is a teaching school. It felt like it wasn't needed. Maybe he didn't make his research or something. It felt like it wasn't needed to put his teaching experience, and that was so. Always put everything relevant that you think is relevant. Don't omit anything if you know that it is particularly relevant, because you don't know where you're applying to. A focused SOP and evidence of resilience and consistency. Your common mistakes, overly emotional story. Please don't start your SOP with, I grew up poor, my father died, my mother died. I don't believe in that particularly. There are some soft stories you can say. I can never forget my master's statement of purpose started with, flooding is central to my life in Lagos State, which is one of the most populous or more overpopulated, African cities, blah, blah, blah. Even though I was saying flooding and I've been impacted by this firsthand, and this flooding causes loss of lives, properties, as well as, impact our water quality systems, and, causes a lot of waterborne diseases such as cholera and typhoid. Even though that kind of sound like a sub story, it still aligns with my water research. I started with flooding is central to my life. So even though don't over tell emotional, like, I have so many emotions. Everybody's going through one thing or the other. So that's what I believe. Unless it's your personal history, there are some schools that will ask personal history or something. Tell us what you've gone through, like what you've gone through, emotions. Then you pour that there. But in your SOP, you want to show your strength. If you have any emotional story, don't oversell emotional story. Don't overwrite. Ensure that it aligns with your future goal, and ensure that everything makes sense. And it's not like you're begging for admission and they don't see your strength later on. That's what I always say. Please don't oversay a lot of things. SOP is not for that. There are some schools that request for like personal history to pour that down. And when you're pouring down, don't overpour, because if you overpour all that, for instance, oh, my mother died, my dad died, how does it align with some certain things? You might want to say, okay, you've gone through a difficulty if they ask for personal history. This, at least that's what I believe in, right? Especially now that we have very limited funding. A lot of people want to focus more on people that they are seeing the skills. So please don't over, and some common mistakes are also no mention of alignment with the school, with the professor. Ensure there is alignment. Typos, grammatical errors. You've been looking at your SOP for weeks or probably months. It's normal to miss out on some certain things. Make sure you give it out to people. Second eye, as Ted said, expert and non-expert. Expert to look at, the structure. No, expert to look at if this makes sense, your alignment with the professors, and non-expert to look at just the structure and overall wording and English with it. And, weak and generic letters, CVs full of irrelevant items. Like I said, have a draft of CV of everything you've been involved in, and then make sure that what you're particularly applying for, you're tailoring it directly. And finally, emailing professors without reading their research. It's a very, very big mistake, and they get angry at that. So with that, I've come to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for having me. If you have any question, I'll take some of the question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Amina. So we'll have time for one question, and then if there are still more questions at the end of the talk, we can look at it. Rejoice Basti, is that?
Okay, hello.
Yeah,
I
okay,
speak?
Michael.
Okay. Thank you, Amina, for the presentation. It was very insightful. Please, I would like to ask, when it comes to the experiences section on the CV, like how many relevant researches does some supervisors look out for? Let's say I have maybe just 3 publications, 3 researches that are out there. Would that be enough on that particular field I'm applying for? Thank you.
Do you mean research experience or like actual publications?
Okay, research experience and after publications.
Okay.
The sorry to interrupt you. The publication are evidences of the experiences. Okay, so thank you.
Okay, yeah, I understand that publication are evidence of research experience, and I would like to tell you that I've had students that had no publication rather, and students that have publications. The ones that have no publications applied for masters, and they got MasterCard in Canada. MasterCard is one of the most prestigious, we all know that, scholarships. And we also have the other one that didn't have publication and applied to the US and got funding as well. While publication is actually very, very important to get, especially now with limited funding, the competitions are getting, wider and larger. I would not want you to think that is everything, that if you don't have a publication, you don't bother to, apply to grad school. If you have your undergraduate thesis that you've done right now, you can begin to try to, write it up as a manuscript to prepare for publication. And once you're writing it as a manuscript, that can be included in your CV, the authors in brackets in prep. which means that you're prepping it for publication, right? But I would not want to limit. When I applied for masters, I didn't have any publication. Till now. I don't have any publication. Even while applying for PhD, I just submitted my master's thesis for publication, and I'm working with other students in Nigeria, to help them publish and, just to work together and supervise them on the project. So while it's important and it gives like a fair advantage, I get what you mean, but that's not the end. You have other things as well. If your research interest is highly, highly important to it just takes 1 year. That's why I always tell students, it takes 1 year. You can apply to 100 schools, 100 professors, but all you need is 1 year, right? So as long as your research interest that you've done, those 3 research interests, or research experience rather, that you've done perfectly aligns with what the person is doing, the person is amazed by it. You have a lot of other experiences as well. You have a lot of certification workshops you've attended, presentations, numerous things, you've tutored or you've taught anyone, and then you've done a lot of other things. And then you have a strong CGPA. That would cover up for your publication if you don't have a publication. So I don't think that while it's important, I will acknowledge that, you should limit yourself to the idea that if I don't have this, then that's the end. I have students this year, most have no publications, and professors are begging them to come and work with them. She doesn't have any publication. The professor saw a skill she has, which is petrol and sulfur, which she included in her CV and a code email. And the man is like, I've been looking for someone that knows petrol for the past 30 years. Please come and work with me. I'm giving you, what is the application fee waiver, And she doesn't have any publication. I don't even think now that the man wants her, she's even thinking about, publishing, but she has other things that she has done. And she has these skills that she put into a story, a project, and that perfectly aligns. So if you have a publication, that is very good. That is very, very good. But if you don't, that is not the end of the road. So yeah. But if you can try to, put the process out there, it's also good. So,
All right. Thank you very much, Amina, for the insightful presentation. And Michael, yes, there's hope for you. So can you, I think you put that in the chat box. So we'll move on to the next presenter, which is Essien. Is Essien on the call? Hello?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So so we are going to listen to Essien now. Are you ready to light up our screen?
Yeah, so I'm still gonna keep my camera on.
Okay, all right.
But I can speak right now.
All right.
Thank you very much, Charles, for the opportunity to speak to these wonderful people.
Yeah, thank you for
I
being
feel
here.
the energy from you. Everybody looks very excited. And once upon a time, many of us speaking today were once hopefuls like you. And today, we can actually say that we listened when others spoke, and we're able to join 2 dotted lines using a linear, join 2 dots using linear lines, and we can tell that those information we received back then have been very helpful, especially in our choice to come to the United States to study. In many cases, we have so many people, especially from Nigeria, who traditionally think that when it comes to studying abroad, the United Kingdom is the go-to. So many people in Nigeria always think like that. I don't know why, but I know probably because we have some historical ties with the UK, and that's why everybody think the UK is more like the first place for abroad education. I'm not trying to talk down on the UK system, but one of my experience, or one of my experience with them is that you hardly get fundings in the United Kingdom. So everything I'm going to be talking about today is going to revolve only around the United States. And in many cases, I'm going to be looking at the non-STEM people. Even though I'm more of a science communication researcher, I do STEM communication, but I'm going to tailor things down to non-STEM. There is this misconception people have around that the United States actually prioritizes.
Are you sharing your screen?
No, I'm not sharing my screen.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So There is this misconception people have that the United States actually prioritize funding for STEM researchers or STEM graduate students and the rest of that, which is not true. The truth in this is that when you have something to offer, there is the possibility that the school will be willing to invest in you. Because as much as there are so many people applying into science courses here in the United States, there are also so many persons applying into arts and other non-STEM courses. And schools definitely want resources or they need resources to ensure that all of these gaps are appropriately filled and with the right people. So it's not just about you wanting to come study in the United States, but you being emotionally fit, physically fit, and motivated enough to take up all the um, assignments that will be given to you. Now, as somebody who finished from a university in Nigeria, actually finished from the University of Cross River State, had a first class, and I've always had this dream of coming to the United States to study. One thing I would tell you is that your CGPA really matters. I don't know how it turns out to be or what it may look like to the STEM people, but before you eventually get to not be a non-STEM, which is something that likely happens, you need a very strong CGPA. Because at the end of the day, every school have their cutoff points. We call this cutoff point in Nigeria, and it's not really a word used here not really a statement used here in the United States. But when you are making applications, you are going to see some schools would say we are looking for people with at least 3.0 GPA, 3.5 GPA. For instance, the university I am right now, Drexel University, you can't apply to Drexel University if your GPA is less than 3.5. So even if you have 3.4, you are not competitive enough. So you want to ensure that you are paying attention to the GPA you are bringing to the table. Because one of the things that will play you out is if your GPA is less than the required GPA. In as much as there are very top schools in the United States, there are also lower schools where which you can still get in with 3.0, 2.5, even 2.0 and the rest of that. But to whom much is given, much is expected. So the opportunity to get into top schools would require that you come in with top outcomes from your previous institution. So let's assume you have at least 3.0 or maybe up to 3.5 or maybe something more than that or a little bit less. The next thing you would need as somebody applying, when I'm talking about non-STEM, I'm referring to African studies, the arts, music, um, communication arts. We have communication sciences that is very STEM in nature. We have communication art. We have race and race studies, ethnic studies, and the rest of that. A lot of them, all you need to do is get on the school websites, go to academics. There is a web page or there is a tab on the website that is called academics where you click on that and then you get to see a variety of schools, a variety of programs, colleges, and departments in the institution you want to apply to. And the beautiful thing about this thing is that in many schools, the titles for the program you may be willing to get in may not be what you were expecting. For instance, um, maybe you finished from a mass communication program in your home university, and then you want to get into a mass communication program here in the United States. Yes, the University of Iowa still have a program called mass communication, but so many American universities do not use that title. So you want to be very careful to ensure that you do not miss your program just because it doesn't capture the title you are expecting it to capture. So you want to be very careful and to relate with the nomenclatures associated with different programs appropriately. So what you do is there are over 4,000 schools in the United States. When I mentioned there are over 4,000 schools in the United States to people be like, that's too much. I said, no, you shouldn't think like that. You have to rebrand your mind. That's not too much. That means you have over 4,000 opportunities, right? Having so many schools to apply to should not ring to you like too many things to do or too much work. It should interpret to you as a lot of opportunities that you can actually get in. So what you need to do is there are 50 states in the United States. Get on the first state, maybe Pennsylvania, ask for the list of schools in Pennsylvania. You're going to get the top schools. the middle tier schools and the lower schools. And then you can be very selective in the one you want. You can take some time to read their details, what they have to offer, their location, the weather condition, and the rest of that. And then maybe, let's say, assuming there are 50 or 55 schools in Pennsylvania, which there should be more than that, you can then get to the next state and the rest of that. So that at the end of the day, you are not just applying randomly and to the traditionally popular schools, but you are also um, designing your own application route. You are putting your round pegs in your round holes, so you make your own experience. So let's assume you have picked up a state and you've also picked some universities. The next thing you should do is to ensure that um, you digest the content of the program. You digest the overview, the details of the program. You do not want to make the mistake of getting the application process started without first knowing what the program have to offer. And as an international student, I heard the first speaker said something, except you are super, super rich. Cool. As an international student, I will not advise that you get into a school that demands that you pay tuition. Because with the fluctuating rate, a fluctuating relationship between the naira and the dollars, maybe you have all the money now, but what if something happens and then the exchange rate skyrockets? So you want to be very careful to ensure that you pay attention to the financial aid details. There are schools that give you automatic funding once you are considered into the program. But there are schools that you have to be admitted first before you go through another process of, applying for the funding. I always tell people to prioritize those ones that come with automatic admission and automatic funding. There are so many schools like that. Marquette University is one of those schools. If you are planning to pursue, a master's program in communication, it comes with funding, even though it's not automatic, but there is the possibility that 80% of the people accepted into that Catholic school for communication studies will be considered for funding. But in my own school presently, Drexel University, which is more of science communication, tilted to science and interdisciplinary, we admit only 3 students in 1 year. In fact, the department was planning to reduce it to 2, if not that some person spoke up. So many people may be applying from all over the world, but just 3 persons will get in. And those 3 persons that get in automatically are considered for full funding opportunities. So you want to pay attention to schools that prioritize funding for their um, accepted applicants. And you have to ensure that your international passport is ready. One of the things that having your international passport booklet with you is that it gives you some sense of emotional motivation. You are holding it with your hands, and then you begin to have this sense of leaving the country already, which is very necessary. You don't just want to work with you don't just want to work blindly, but you also want to work with some levels of motivations. And just having your booklet at hand can give you some sort of that kind of motivation. So you need it. But beyond that kind of motivation, so many schools always ask for the bio page of your passport booklet during application. So many schools want to be sure that you really mean it, that you want to come over. So they want to be sure that you are with the right document at the right time. So first of all, you need to begin to process your international passport if you do not have that already. And then you need to go get your transcript. So many schools would allow you to apply without your transcript, but there's going to be no decision for any applicant who did not upload transcript during the application process. So you have to be very careful to ensure that your transcript is received. And please, you have to avoid schools that ask for official transcript even before decision. It's very unnecessary for you to spend any amount of money when you are not sure of anything. For instance, school will ask you, okay, we cannot accept your transcript because you have international education, and then you need to go get your transcript evaluated and the rest of that. Honestly, there are over 4,000 schools, and that means over 4,000 opportunities. So if one is messing up, you have to just look into another direction. Don't get yourself bothered. If one is giving you too much work or too much trouble, look into the next option. So you have to be very selective. At the end of the day, it is your service that is coming into play here. So you are not just at the mercy of the admission committee, they are also counting on your forthcoming expertise, right? So you want to be very confident in how you are approaching the whole situation. And when I was applying in 2023, I applied to about 25 schools in the United States, and I did not pay any application fee. I did not pay any application fee to all of these um, schools, because if I'm to sit down now to calculate how much um what's going to be the cost of applying to those 25 schools and paying all those application fees, it's going to be a lot of money. So what did I do? I ensured that there were schools that were quite popular for not that were quite popular for not taking application fees, but few of them. But for the others that were actively asking for application fees, I wrote to the program coordinators, which I still coach people to do the same today. And then you have to explain a lot of things why you shouldn't pay the application fee. Number one is the exchange rate. Sounds like everybody knows this, but it might be a surprising thing to you that somebody can easily spend $150 or $200 here in the United States, and that is a lot of money in Nigeria. That is a lot of money in Ghana. That's a lot of money in Kenya. So you want to be very sure. You want to be careful to explain how making these payments, even when decision is not guaranteed, can bring a lot of financial burden on you. So you really need to bank on that. And so many schools will give you a one-time code, which you should not share with other persons. So besides looking out for schools, Clarkson University in Potsdam in New York automatically do not ask for application fee. Marquette University do not ask for it. Clemson University in South Carolina do not ask for it. American University in Washington, D.C. do not ask for it. George Washington University would ask for application fee if you do not make it to their open house event. So many schools will waive application fee if you can make it to their open house event. As example, the University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee would not ask for application fee once you are able to make it to their open house event. And the schools that keep insisting that you pay application fee, you need to look elsewhere. So let's assume your application fee has been waived and you have received your unofficial transcript without having to pay any money, any sum of money for evaluation, WES, and the rest of that. No, you don't need that. So let's assume that is also at hand. The next thing you will need is a well curated curriculum vitae document. I love how the Amina did a lot of good work, justice to what your CV should look like. So you don't want to come around making it look like you are begging to come. Honestly, for those of us that are here, we know how much we bring to the table. So you don't want to make it look like you are so desperate, you don't have any option in life and the rest of that. Come professional. And one of the things that speak to your professionalism is how you tailor your CV. We have Dr. Igbala Jobi's CV that is going around the net. I think you should know him. He's a professor in Canada. That could be a good way to redesign your own to look somewhere like that. I understand that somebody just finishing your program, you may not have a lot of conferences, or you may not have a lot of publications and the rest of that. But every little thing you do falls back on how you are able to tell the story behind it. So life is all about the story and the narratives crafted around the win or the achievement, right? So you want to be careful to ensure that whatever narrative you are pushing into the process, or whatever narrative you are summarizing into your CV, aligns with the subject matter. So you don't want to give an impression of you don't want to give an impression of political communication when you are actually applying to a health communication program. It doesn't align. You're already shooting yourself at the feet. So what you want to do is pay attention to the details that get into your CV. And moving beyond your CV, you also need to liaise with your okay, before we even get to that, let's talk about having publications and conferences in your on your CV. So I've had this debate over and over again with a lot of persons saying it doesn't matter if you have publications or if you have spoken in conferences or not, but this is it. When you have publications on your CV, it gives this impression that you have good writing skills. Of course, you're definitely going to submit, definitely going to turn in a writing sample for the committee to evaluate how much you can write, how good you can write. But having some having some mentions and some examples or some illustrations of what you've written before, give them this impression that if you are accepted into this program, you can coach the students in that program on how to write. Now let's get it very clear. What is funding? What scholarship? What's funding? What all of these things? Is you coming in to do the work that a professor should do. So at the end of the day, you are going to be working. And what's the work? You're going to be mentoring. You're going to be teaching. So they want to be sure that you can actually teach these children, these American kids, how to write. And not just how to write, but how to write well and to write effectively. And one of the ways you can actually push out that one of the ways you can actually give that impression that you can coach another person to write is by first showing that you can write well. So when people say you don't need publication, I say, well, you are very right. You do not need it, but until the skill is being called for, and then you do not have something to show. And then when we are talking about conferences shows your speaking skills. Personally, I was still in my undergraduate program when I was already speaking in conferences in Germany, in the United States. I wasn't even traveling to those countries yet. But I was able to turn in some abstracts, and they saw how useful those research ideas were, and they invited me and I made visual presentations. And then I came over to the United States and I was now going and the rest of that. So what am I trying to say? Maybe you do not have the funds. I understand the Nigerian system and other African systems that may not really prioritize funding for a lot of these things. But maybe you do not have the fund to travel. You can still reach out to other countries of the world through the internet connections. The world has become a global village. So you cannot say I cannot make a presentation in China just because I cannot travel to China. That's not true. That's because, I'm sorry to use this word, maybe you are not taking life so deliberate enough, or maybe you are just careless, or somebody will say lazy. I shouldn't use that word here. What am I trying to say? As much as you are able to give the impression, the speaking impression and the writing impression, these people can trust you to hand over their kids to you to mentor. Because at the end of the day, the students are the university customers. They will take the feedback back to their donors, back to their funders, back to their parents who are the ones sponsoring them in the school. And if the feedback they keep taking back about your institution is not what is expected, it can really damage the reputation of that institution. And you don't want to be the person causing that. So you have to come with the impression that you are not just coming to school for free, but you are coming to give your skill in exchange for the reputation of the school. So moving from the CV, you need your recommendation letter. The second speaker said that already. You need your recommendation letter. You need you need your statement of purpose. Your statement of purpose is more like a marketplace yeah, Charles, I've seen that. Thank you. The statement of purpose is more like, this is who I am. It's your selling point. So it's you picking the best points out of your CV and developing them into short essays, short paragraphic essays, in order to show how much you can synthesize ideas. So at the end of the day, as much as you really want to get into these programs, you must ensure that you do not just meet their requirements, but you should exceed it. Because the same race you are running, heading towards that prize, which is getting the funding, someone else in many other countries may be doing the same. And you do not just want to fit into the criteria, you want to beat it. Right? Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you so much, Essien, for the wonderful and insightful presentation. That was really helpful. And I know some people might be burning with questions. Does anyone have question? Maybe we can take like 2 questions. Can everyone hear me? Okay. I think that was clear enough.
Okay.
I don't see anyone. Okay, someone,
I think Abdul
Abdul
Rahman.
Rahman. Yeah, Abdul Rahman has a question.
Ustad was Samuel to have a question.
Okay, I'll start there. Yeah. All right, let's go. So let's start with Abdul Rahman. Is Abdul Rahman here? Okay, if Abdul Rahman is not ready, then Michael Osifo.
That's Michael Oshivaka.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Hello.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ezien, for the presentation, sir. Sorry, I just wanted to ask a particular question that has been bothering me because at some point it looks like I know what I want, right? But it looks like I'm doing too much. The goal is okay to further our studies in the US, and there are several ways to do that, whether through scholarship and maybe through sending cold emails and every other things like that. So I find myself doing all these things, right? I want to ask, is it advisable to just stick to, okay, if you want to be writing code emails to professors about research paper about your research this thing, do this. If it is scholarship you want to be applying for, be on this side. Do you think it is nice that way to just stick to a particular niche and just work on it, or you can just interweave everything together? Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, so if I understand your question very well, I think you're asking about what to stick to when you're constructing your code email. So code emails are very necessary, whether you are in STEM, whether you are in non-STEM, or whether you are in the auxiliary courses. Code emails are very necessary because sometimes the professor who may be the recipient of that code email may in some ways have access to the committee, may be a member or even the head of the committee, or have good relationship with the people in the committee, and conversation definitely happens. So when you're writing your code email, what you should do is avoid um, avoid asking for financial help at that point in time. That is not the right time to do it. Avoid doing that. What you want to do is you want to sell yourself. It's more like an elevator pitch. You are pitching yourself. This is me. This is what I've done, and this is what I am hoping to do if I am given this opportunity. That is the picture you want to paint. But you have to first of all establish what is going on right now that is necessary. That if we invest our money in you, will become better, right? So it's not just writing for if I get you right, it's not just writing to show that you know how to write, but you are writing to show your expertise at the moment. You're writing to define your immediate goal and your ultimate goal. Like I said, this is what I'm doing, and if I have this opportunity through you, this is what I am heading to do far better. So your cold emails are very necessary, but you should avoid trying to make financial requests or some too personal requests at this point in time, because you would agree with me that at this point you are still a stranger and you want to keep things very professional. Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir. A part of it, sir.
That's what I'm saying. Whatever you're writing in your code email should tell one message. This is me, this is what I've been able to achieve, and this is what I would achieve if I am given this opportunity in your institution. Anything more than that could be too much. And you don't want to bother somebody who reads a lot of emails every day with too much unnecessary information, right? So you want to keep it very streamlined. Your achievements at the moment and your future perspective, and how the person can come in between to take you to where you're heading to. That's the goal of code email writing.
All right. Thank you very much, SN. I see so many hands up. I will take
Please, can
one
I
more
speak?
question, but before then, what I would like to say is, it is impossible to be able to exhaust everybody's curiosities, everybody's questions on this particular call. But what we can do is, you can always reach out to us. YAWASH is here. YAWASH is a family, and are holding mentoring sessions for volunteers and all that continuously. So even one-on-one, you can have it with us. All you need to do is like reach out. I posted the link in the chat box. You can take the information from there, send us email at any time, and we'll definitely be there for you. So we'll take the next question, and then we'll begin to round up. Ablatif Adedeji.
Okay,
Yes,
Mr.
sir, thank you
Asian.
so
Oh,
much.
okay.
Good evening, Mr. Easy, and thank you so much for the presentation. Good evening, Mr. Charles. Really
Yeah.
appreciate this. So, my questions, number one is on letters of recommendation. So, I asked a question earlier. I actually said mathematics education, but now I'm looking at focusing more on learning science. So, I'm feeling like my lecturers, majority of them are in mathematics, and then some of them, just few of them are in like math education. So I'm feeling like, is it actually okay for them to still be the one that help me to write my letter of recommendation, or should I get people in like the education field itself to write letter of recommendation for the learning science? So that's one. The other second question is that I've seen like this master's and PhD. Most of the time when you go for a PhD scholarship, like you're going to like it's more like 4 to 5 years. So my question is, if you're to get admitted as a master student and then you spend like 2 years for a master program, and then you later apply for PhD, are you going to start like still spend that 4 years or 5 years for your PhD program, or you're going to just spend like 2 or 3 years to finish up?
Okay, so in response to your first question, when we are talking about recommenders are people that can attest to your skills, both in classroom skills and professional skills. So if there is a situation where any of your lecturers taught you and they come from any department, but as long as they can attest to the fact that they were in the position to evaluate your abilities academically, then they can definitely recommend you to your next institution. It doesn't matter if you are in mathematics and then your lecturer is in mathematics education. It doesn't matter. As long as they were able to, there was a point in your life where which you encountered them academically and they evaluated your abilities, then they are in a very good place to recommend you to the admission committee. And for many PhD and master's programs, the thing is that many PhD programs are 5 years or 5 to 6 years, and some maybe 4 to 5 years. But in a PhD program that you have to spend up to 5 years, there is always an in-process master's degree that is awarded to you at the end of 2 years. And in many cases, you have to request for it. But if you are going to take a broken step, or kind of if you are going to take a pathway in which you have to finish your master's first before applying officially for the next program, which is a PhD, then you have to complete a full 2 years program with your thesis, and then you get on to apply to the next program, which may be up to 4 or 5 years. But whatever the case is, I'm in a program where I got in and I did not have a master's degree. But my two colleagues got in and they had master's degree, one of them in Canada, the other one in Nepal. But we are all finishing together. We are all finishing together. And that means that if you get into a PhD program and that PhD program have the standard that everybody accepted in the program must spend 4 to 5 years, then even if you came with a master's degree, you must spend that 5 years. You must spend that 4 years. But if you get into a negotiable program is a program where you tell them, oh, I have a master's degree already. I don't want to stay up to 5 years. Can I do just 3 years and get a PhD? Then they will let you know if they can consent to that standard or you have to look elsewhere. But at the end of the day, 5 years PhD program always comes with a master's that is awarded at the end of 2 years. Did I answer the question?
Yes, sir, you did, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome. And please, Charles, let me quickly say this.
Okay.
One of the things I do is that I pay a lot of attention to prospective funding hopefuls like this. So maybe if they can send their questions to my LinkedIn within
Okay.
yes, I can give responses to those questions and try as much as possible to guide us appropriately.
Can you drop your LinkedIn page, or if you're sending email, we can include the
No, if it
LinkedIn
is
page
email,
as well?
that's going to be the worst. I'm avoiding my email this time. It's been a lot in there.
No, what I'm saying is we'll send them like emails and then maybe include the LinkedIn.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
nice. That's
but before that, you can drop your LinkedIn on the comment on the chat, in the
okay.
chat section. Yeah,
Okay,
and then
sounds good.
thank you so much. So I think we're coming close to the end of this program, and but one thing we like is we also like you to visit our LinkedIn page, drop your reviews under the comment section of this of the advert for this particular program, and visit our social media pages as well, but also our website, official website, to learn more about what we do. Like I said at the start, but before we conclude, it's God's time around. Is God's time on the call? Okay. I doubt. God's time is our facilitating coordinator. He's like one of the engine rooms of YAWASH as an organization. He's a highly important personality. I wanted him to like say hi to the house, but it seems maybe he's going to ease himself. But before we go, we'd like to take our vote of thanks from the leader of YAWASH, one of the founding members, and one of the founding members of YAWASH as an organization. It took us 6 years brainstorming from 2019 to be able to like finally realize his vision. He's around. He's a visionary. He's a PhD student in France, and I'll invite him to at least say one or two words before we call it a day. Francis.
Can you get
Yeah.
okay? Yeah, well, I would, as we are coming to the close of this webinar, it's my honor to first of all extend the vote of thanks. I would, with deepest appreciation, I would like to extend my great appreciation to our wonderful presenter, Ted, Amina, and ACM. Thank you for sharing your expertise, your insight, and your time with us today. I would say like I've really learned a lot for sure. I followed through all the section. And also, I would also want to appreciate Charles who moderated this section. And yeah, just a quick note on YAWASH. I mean, Charles mentioned in the beginning. So yeah, we already know that we are organization for young people trying to push the SDG 6. And it's also in our interest to, in addition to the water sustainability developmental goal of 6, that is water and hygiene, sanitation, we try to encourage our volunteers. And one of it is this section which we had today. And this is some of the things you would be benefiting from us in YAWASH. So if you wish to be part of YAWASH, I mean, a couple of weeks ago, we already shared a link about how to, you know, call for volunteers, that's recruiting members, young members, not limited to any young member. But yeah, for people who are available and wish to join the REPO and to propagate the message of sustainable developmental goal within sub-Saharan Africa. So yeah, Charles already dropped the link, and we also have Gostan, who is our facilitating coordinator, available now, and he will also throw more light to that. So I would also like to say, I mean, you already got so you can also register. There was a Google document that was sent earlier. In case at the end you want to get the recording of this section, as well as most of the documents regarding this section. So you can also register through those documents, like Charles mentioned, so you can be able to get most of the recording as well as the LinkedIn profile from the presenter. So I would once again say big thanks to all our presenters and our participants. And with that, I would hand over to Charles. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Francis. I would like to thank everybody so much for coming. And for those who are interested in volunteering, remember that volunteering comes with one-on-one mentoring session and professional growth opportunities. So you're all invited to like check the volunteering section of our website And if you're interested, you can express your interest from there, and then we can meet to talk about it. All right. Thank you
Also,
very much. What?
I think like I don't know, maybe someone raised hand or maybe I don't know why
Okay.
the hand
Someone
is
wanted to
raised.
speak.
I don't know, but except maybe they can
Let me
raise
check.
hand.
Sorry. Let me check.
Yeah, please, Charles.
Okay. Is okay. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted earlier to ask Mr. SN some questions. So I don't know if he's still available, if you can hear me.
I don't know if is Essence still on the call?
Yeah, I
Yes, I'm
can
on
see
the
him.
call.
He's
What did
still
you say?
Okay. Right.
okay.
So
Mr.
Michael has a
SN.
question for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you for your powerful presentation, sir. I would like to have more insights about the application for PhD because currently I'm running my master's and I'll be done in a few months. So I would want to know, do they also, because you said earlier that every school or every program has a specific points they look for,
Yeah.
like a CGPA. Is that
GPA.
same criteria applicable for people going for PhD
Yes,
from
it
an
does.
MSc?
It does. So
Okay,
this is what happens if you are your, your most recent degree becomes the standard for measurement.
okay,
So if you are getting into a PhD and you have a master's, then it's going to be evaluated if the master's is within 3.0 or 3.5 out of 4. But if you are applying for a direct PhD from your bachelor, then the evaluation is going to be on your bachelor degree. Whichever one
okay,
is your most recent degree becomes the point of evaluation. Yeah.
okay. Then that is also added to other experiences, right, sir?
Yes, sure.
Okay,
It's a
thank
lot
you.
to this thing. It's not just something we can all talk about in 15
Yeah,
minutes,
yeah, yeah.
but it's okay. It's fine.
And Michael, SN is on LinkedIn as well. So
I
maybe
sent
I
my
dropped his
LinkedIn
this
here.
thing.
I
You
think
can
you did not get it.
contact it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Right, I think Abdurrahman or somebody. Yeah, Abdurrahman, you wanted to speak to SN?
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. Please, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for the session. It was really, really insightful. So my question is, I don't know if it is simple, but I feel like it should. I have attended a program like 2 months ago, and there I got an information that bothers me, which was the fact that when we make research, which was one of the things that were mentioned on this call by you and Amina, that we should look, um, we should try and find the schools we want to, more like prospective schools, then review the some of the professors and all of those things. Now, let's assume I have gotten a department that has the course of study that I'm interested in, and I realized that they listed about 2 or 3 or 4 lecturers, professors under that same group. So I eventually sent email to about 3 of them or 2 at least. So now, what the exam mentioned of that particular program was that sometimes it is better we email one, because if we email like 2 of them, if the other one now just went ahead to meet the first one and inform him or her that he got an email from a student, this and this, and that same person now realizes that it is the same guy that sent him or her an email, and it might provoke them, more like sending emails to 2 different professors, that is he not kind of because maybe send the email because he doesn't respond in time. So more like, I don't even understand my question. They felt like it is not usually right to send email to 2 professors or more than 2 professors in the same school for the same program. So I wanted to ask that, is it same in the case of the microfinance? Can you hear me, sir? Mr. Charles, you are muted, sir. We can't hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. So I think Estienne has gone off, but what we can do is there are two things we can do. You can follow him on LinkedIn and ask him, but we are also here, right? You can always contact us. We dropped contact addresses. You can contact us, and then we'll be able to like help you and guide you as well, right? And yeah, basically just reach out to us. Whatever is beyond us, we belong to a community of scholars that have different strength, and we can always connect you to somebody if it's something that is beyond us personally, right? Yeah, is that fine?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes,
I
make
really
sure you reach
appreciate
out
it.
to us. Make sure you reach out to us, and yeah, basically we should be able to connect, and then we have one-on-one mentorship for our volunteers as well. Yeah. Does anyone have one final question for Amina? I know, yeah, some people were asking for. Okay, so that we can finally free
Yes,
her. You have a
I
question?
have one for R.
Okay, just one question. Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Ms. Amina, I really appreciate your effort as well for this session. It was really insightful. I was going to ask as well about NYSC in Nigeria for prospective candidates like us that we are looking into applying into um, foreign studies opportunity. And then we have this NYSC mandatory service in Nigeria that we also are looking forward to. So, is there a way that you can advise that? Is it that we should go for it first and then before we start applications, or we should just start application? Perhaps there might be a way that we can boycott or do something about it, sir. Ma. Thank you, ma.
Hello, Amina.
I'm sorry about that.
Okay, all right. Yes, please, fine. Okay.
I think it was Ghost time that asked the question, if I'm correct. I think the issue with NYSC is at your own discretion, right? I've seen people that started NYSC and then 8 months into their NYSC was when, they got their offer. I think it was Erasmus, and they just abandoned the NYSC and they went for Erasmus. And from there, they are doing their PhD right now in the United States. And so I think with that, there are some things that are particularly with your own discretion. Do you want to do this thing? If you've started already, I have some student right now. I think one is even on this call. She has started her NYSC already. But I'm sure she's not done. If she gets the offer, she's leaving because the offer comes like she just started the NYSC this month. She went for camp already last month or 2 months ago. And then applications or offer letters are usually out depending on the school, starting from January, February. Some schools come in March for August resumption. So if you try to calculate that, with that, she's supposed to finish her NYC maybe in October. And if she gets her offer in August and she leaves in August, she will definitely leave and not want to finish her NYC. But I think that, I don't know if they still do it. So with that, you can try to evaluate, okay, have you started your NYC already? Do you definitely you should start your NYC and you should also start applying for schools. That's what I would say, because you might finish your NYC before school comes, or you might have to defer or something like that. But one should not disturb the other, irrespective. But I think that is solely based on you. I cannot give you a one-way formula to say, okay, don't do NYSC, because the government requires you to do NYSC, right? In case you want to like get government jobs and for those that want to like work in government office in Nigeria. So I think that question, you should really like think about it. If you're the person that has started your NYSC already and you're trying to think, oh, by the time I apply for this, I'll be left with like 3 months or 4 months with my NYSC. I think there are some people that said if you've done 8 months, you can always come back anytime, any year to complete the remaining 3 months or something. I don't know what people say. I actually finished my NYSC and I worked as a teacher, a science and math teacher for a year in Nigeria before coming to the United States. But I was applying for grads while my NYSC. So it's not like I waited until no, I was applying for grad school while doing my NYSC. So that's really at your discretion. If you've started, if you want to start. So I cannot really like give you a one-way answer, but just like evaluate everything and don't let anything, you need to understand your goal. Is your goal to really like, come to United States to get your studies done and maybe to work or to go back or something? And with that, you just apply and also try to focus on your NYSC. But I can't give you a one-way answer or an answer that says, okay, this year drop, applications and focus on NYSC or drop NYSC and focus on application. I think that is really at your own discretion. I know that's kind of a vague answer, but that's all I can offer right now.
All right, thank you so much, Amina. I think go Ghost time.
Yeah. Can I be heard now?
And Amina is also on LinkedIn. You can follow her as well. Amina Abdul Salam. Yeah.
Yeah. So can I be heard?
Yes, we can hear you finally.
Okay, finally. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. First of all, thank you, Mr. Francis. Thank you, Mr. Charles. Thank you, Amina. Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Estienne. For a wonderful session. I followed up from the start to this place, but um, I would want us to do something. For those of us that are here, I wanted us to do this earlier on while we were about 70 or so. So we could just go down to the LinkedIn page where our official post was made about this Q&A session, and just drop your reviews. Drop your reviews on on what exactly stood out for you in the session. Maybe I mean I said something about the CV that struck, or maybe talked about it. Just that key thing, for you, just drop it out there. You can't tell who would that would make an impact for. And for those of us that are inquiring about volunteer, we have on-site, we have a hybrid kind of volunteering. Precisely, you could volunteer for us virtually. You can also be on site, because beyond the virtual space, beyond the digital space, we actually carry out real-time practical research, community service, and all that. But most importantly, a big kudos to our speakers, and thank you so much to our founder and to our co-founder for putting up such a wonderful piece together. Thank you so much from my end.
All right. Thank you, God Sam. That's pretty much the end of the webinar.